Revenge for my wife's lies. Cheating and betrayal. The night started out as one of those predictably bad nights with nothing but pain and anger. And then it got worse. Or was it better? I suppose it depends on how much anger was gnawing at me, and I have to admit there was a lot of it. It was about 10 o'clock, and I was sitting in a darkened house, lit only by the floor lamp next to my chair. I had been working on my assignment for hours and was unaware of the darkness outside the artificial universe that stretched only a meter away from my chair. It matched my mood perfectly. I sat cross-legged and held a yellow notepad in my lap, in which I made lists and took notes. I was fully immersed in my reading when the doorbell rang. Looking up, still not noticing what time it was, I noticed the dark house for the first time and thought, "Who could it be at this hour?" I was very sure it wasn't my wife, as she hadn't come home this early from a bachelorette party in months. I put the notebook down on the floor and dropped my pen on it. It was then that I realized how tired I really was. I wasn't tired from work, but from the heartbreaking reality of my life that had devastated me. Walking to the door, I flicked 2 wall switches that turned on the outside lights and the hallway lights. Throwing a quick glance through the door peephole, I saw that there were 2 police officers waiting for me, and that never bodes well. I took a deep breath, opened the door, and asked, "What did I do this time?" I tried to make a joke, but they didn't even smile. This wasn't a friendly visit. "Are you George Bradley?" "Yes." I tried to be nice. "Your wife, Jean Bradley?" "You're right the second time. May I ask what this is about?" "You ever notice how the police never answer your questions?" "May I come in?" Without waiting for an answer, the officer closest to me stepped over the threshold. I blocked his path and shook my head. "No." "I beg your pardon?" He seemed surprised. It seemed no one had ever said no to him before. "I said no. I asked you a question, so you can answer it or leave." I was quickly running out of nice words. He backed away, but didn't answer my question. "Had you been here all evening?" I crossed my arms over my chest and looked at him like he was an asshole. "Yes, and that's the last answer I'm going to give you until you answer my question." "What's the matter?" "I guess I let them know that they couldn't make me answer the way they wanted me to, because they finally answered my question. Your wife was, injured and taken to Memorial Hospital. Strange things happen to husbands. One minute you're planning your wife's destruction, the next you're concerned for her well-being." "What happened?" I was genuinely concerned. They weren't ready to tell me yet. "Can we come in?" Fatigue came over me again. I exhaled, stepped back, and gestured for them to come in. They entered. I pointed to the dimly lit living room, and they entered, nervous as if this was a practice exercise in one of their shooting galleries. I turned on the overhead light and sat down in my chair. "So, now can you tell me what happened?" The worry for my wife was slowly subsiding, and I was starting to get angry. They looked at each other, and the one who I assume was the senior officer said, "Sir, we regret to inform you that your wife has been shot this evening." His statement seemed rehearsed, and it occurred to me later that he was watching my reaction. The asshole was trying to read me. I'll admit, the news hit me hard. "Is she all right?" "Yes, sir. You may recall that we told you she was at Memorial Hospital." I thought about it for a moment until my mind cleared. "No, you said she was taken there. You never said whether she was alive or dead. Now answer the question or get out." By the time I was done, I was screaming. Again, they looked at each other. Again, much later, I wondered if they were frustrated that they couldn't understand me, annoyed at their own inability to intimidate me, or simply unsure how to proceed. Once again, it was the senior officer. "Your wife is in surgery. The outcome is uncertain." To my great surprise, these 2 sentences hit me like a ton of bricks and rendered me speechless. I began to breathe rapidly, which later embarrassed me. When I gathered my thoughts, 2 policemen were kneeling beside my chair and saying, "Breathe. Breathe. And I nodded like a dummy. My wife got shot? A traitor shot? Who but me would want to do that? Did I just say that out loud? 2 cops were still telling me to breathe, so I guess not. Is there anything else you can tell me? When my own brief crisis was behind me, they both stood up and assumed their previous posture, but were now more forthright. Your wife was in a motel room with a gentleman friend. As far as we can tell, his wife must have gotten into the house somehow. She probably just knocked on the door and he opened it without looking. Either way, she fired almost the entire clip at him and saved the rest of the bullets for your wife. Fortunately for your wife, his wife doesn't seem to be a very good shot. A few of her shots missed the target, but others hit the target fairly accurately. That guy's dead, but the doctors think your wife might pull through. Wow. Once they finally start sharing information, they really give you everything. And then it hit me. So, you're here to find out if I had anything to do with this? The expression on their faces didn't give away any of their thoughts. We know who the shooter was, but there's always the question of bringing in additional people. Besides, we need to know that your wife is safe and can come home when she's healthy. I think that was the moment when I smiled for the first time all evening. She has been safe for the last few weeks, so I don't see why that should change now. They both looked at me as if I didn't understand anything. Obeying a sudden impulse, I decided to give these 2 a small gift. I reached over to the edge of the chair and both officers visibly tensed up. The younger of the 2 even put his hand on his weapon. Don't be afraid, kid. It's just an envelope. I handed them the heavy paper envelope I had on my chair and said, I met with my lawyer today. She gave me a list of things to do and ironically told me to make some more lists. With those words, I reached to the other edge of my chair and picked up the notebook in which I had been making notes about the divorce. The senior officer opened the envelope and started looking at the pictures of my wife having sex with a man I had never met. Would you guys like to give me the name of the man she was with? The senior officer spoke without raising his eyes. I guess you already know. They were fascinated, like 2 boys who had just discovered adult movies on the internet. It was then that the junior officer spoke for the first time. God, they really do look different. The senior officer reprimanded him in my presence. Then, turning to me, he said, I apologize, sir. That was inappropriate. He's new. I just nodded. I had bigger problems to think about right now. My unfaithful wife was in the hospital. She may or may not have pulled through. My guess was that the divorce would be put on hold for a few days or weeks until we could figure out how things would work themselves out. After repeating that I had been home all evening, and remembering my brother's very fortunate call to help establish my alibi, they repeated their warning to me not to harm my wife when she returned. I saw no point in going into detail, so I simply repeated my previous response, and they seemed satisfied. As they got ready to leave, I got up from my chair and walked them out. I turned off the light, walked back to my chair, sat down, and began to ponder this new information. She had been shot. I hadn't expected that. As much as I hated her for what she had done, I never wished her dead. I wanted her to have a lifetime of regrets, crying at night, lying alone in her bed, never touched by a man's hand, as if it was going to happen. I started the evening very deliberately, doing the work my lawyer had assigned me. It was a great way to distract myself from the questions that had been plaguing me ever since I realized my wife was cheating on me. I now knew exactly who was, but still had no idea why. There were certainly some difficult moments in our marriage. She was the kind of person who seemed to always be dissatisfied with something. At times, I could swear she was looking for a reason to be discontent. I never fully realized it until the divorce preparations put distance between us, and I began to see things from the outside. Whatever had caused her to ruin her life now made me somewhat of a suspect in a murder case. The pieces of the mosaic began to fall into place, and it was then that I realized I was not alone in this sordid case of lies and betrayal. I called my lawyer's cell phone, and she picked up after the fourth ring. It better be important, otherwise, my goodness, I'm sending you a bill that you're going to pay with your Social Security checks anyway. Sheila Goldstein was a real shark, and I found strange comfort in her take-no-prisoners stance. Who would have thought a divorce attorney would have a sense of humor? Who said I was kidding? I need you to contact the criminal defense attorney who is working tonight. I heard a crackle in the phone. Tell me you didn't do something stupid. No, someone else did. The cops just came to see me. The asshole's wife caught up with them and shot them both. He's dead and she's in surgery. The asshole's wife needs a lawyer and I bet she doesn't have one. Listen to me. Tell me you had nothing to do with this, and for God's sake, say it like you mean it. I had nothing to do with it. Now say it like I'm supposed to believe it. I'm telling you the truth. I had nothing to do with it. The cops were here and they told me about it. I think they were thinking what you were thinking, but I had nothing to do with it. All right, So why is it your problem? It's not. But I think Missouri loves the company. If we didn't have a conversation in our office about how not to do something stupid, it could very well be me. I just want to help her. I heard a heavy, deep sigh on the other end of the wire. Okay. Sighs. Do you know where she is? You mean Helen Smith? Your wife had sex with another woman's husband? Yes, I mean Helen Smith. I don't know where she is, but they were shot in town. It's a small town, so I assume she's at the police station. All right. Cell phone rings. Stay where you are. I'll call my colleague and see if he can make it. At least he can sit with her until she finds a lawyer. I have to go to the hospital. Okay. You can go to the hospital, but don't be alone with her. If anything happens, I want at least 3 meters between you and her, and at least 2 witnesses. Got it. George? Yeah? I know you. You have conflicted feelings. I'm sorry for what's happening, but you're not responsible, and everything's gonna be okay. Can you hear me? Yes, ma'am, I can hear you. Okay. Sighs. Go do what you have to do, but behave yourself. I hung up thinking, did I just say yes, ma'am? Why does she make me feel like a little kid? And why does it work so well? Never mind. She takes care of me at times when I feel lost, and she gives me direction. Now I'm going to have to make her proud of me. I took a shower and changed my clothes. A few weeks ago, I would have thrown myself at her to be near her, but Jean had killed that love. Now I just had obligations I had to fulfill, including making sure she got proper medical care and the hospital got our insurance information. The divorce could wait. I wasn't going to tear my clothes off no matter what the outcome was, but I would fulfill my marital obligations by making sure strangers did their jobs. As it turned out, I could have spent more time. When I arrived, she was recovering and had been sedated all night. I gave them our insurance information, talked to the surgeon who said Jean was expected to survive, and went home. They would call me if there were any changes or when she woke up. It was well past midnight when I got home. I was exhausted but couldn't sleep, so I mentally made a to-do list. Everything could wait until tomorrow, except for one very difficult task. I needed to call Jean's parents. I wanted to wait until morning. But if she got worse and they couldn't say goodbye, they would never forgive me. No matter what I thought of Jean, her parents had always been good to me. So I picked up the phone and called. Listen? Do you know what time it is? Yeah, Joe, I know. I should have called. Jean's hurt and they've taken her to Memorial Hospital. There was a second pause while her father digested the information. Injured? What do you mean, injured? Joe, she was shot by her lover's wife tonight. Wounded! What are you talking about? Are you drunk? How did she get shot? No, Joe, I'm sober. The police were here earlier, and I was at the hospital. The surgery's over, and the doctor says she's going to be okay. She's been sedated, so there's no point in going in tonight. I just wanted to let you know. Are you with her right now? No, I'm at home. Shouldn't you be with her? I'm too tired to be angry. Joe, can you hear me? She was shot by her lover's wife. You're crazy. Jean doesn't have a lover. Yes, Joe. She has a lover, or used to. He's dead, but she'll live. There was silence on the other end of the wire or something like that, as I heard Joe tell Mary what I had told him. Eventually, Joe continued. George, is there even the slightest chance that you're wrong? About the affair or the shooting? Well, both. No, Joe. I got suspicious and hired someone to look after her about 2 weeks ago. I was looking at photos and transcripts when the police arrived. I was at the hospital and spoke to her doctor. It's all true. There's silence again. What are you going to do? I'm sorry, Joe. I've already been to a lawyer. I'm divorcing her. George, can't you find it in your heart to forgive her? I mean, she's been shot and she's gonna need you. I needed her too, Joe, but she was away sleeping with her lover. Is that it? Basically, yeah. I'll make sure she gets help for all that time, and I'm sure the lawyers will have something to say about finances and such. But I've been lied to too many times. In some ways, it's worse than sex. She lied right to my face, and she did it so skillfully that I never knew. I had no idea. It took Joe a while to realize it. So, what made you suspicious? It's just that she wasn't home all the time. We used to do everything together, but in the last few months, she's been making plans that I don't get involved in. I decided I needed to see for myself, so I hired a guy and he showed me what Jean was hiding from me. After that, I made a decision. You know, her mom and I were looking forward to grandchildren. He sounded like a man defeated, and it hit a nerve with me. I knew they wanted grandchildren, and I wanted us to give them grandchildren. I'm sorry, Joe. I'm really sorry. Would you do us a favor? I thought, this is it. They want me to put off making a decision until Jean is better and we can talk. To my surprise, that wasn't the case. Don't be a stranger. Marie and I think of you as the son we never had. I don't want to lose you, even if you divorce our daughter. I couldn't believe my ears. Despite everything that had happened, the betrayal, the evidence, the lawyer, the shooting, it all made me cry for the first time. I love you guys too. I really promise I'm not going anywhere. At that, we hung up the phones. If I had felt dead tired before, I was now completely exhausted. I went to bed without undressing and fell into a deep sleep. The morning sun woke me up, but I was not ready to get up. I got up just enough to draw the curtains, undress, and climb back into bed for another 2 hours of much-needed but restless sleep. When I couldn't sleep any longer, I showered, dressed, and went to get something to eat before heading to the hospital. It was around 11 when I got to Jean's room. Her parents were already there. She was awake and surprisingly alert. I expected she was still sedated or drugged, but what could I know? I'd never seen a gunshot wound victim before. I entered her room expecting remorse. God, how surprised I was. She took one look at me and exploded. You asshole! You killed him, didn't you? You killed David! So much for, it was just sex. It didn't mean anything. Suddenly there were 2 nurses in the room who quickly walked past me and 2 orderlies standing next to me. I think they perceived me as a threat. I looked at her without a drop of compassion in my heart. No, his wife killed him. I think you 2 were sloppy, or maybe she was just smarter than me. That rendered her speechless. She leaned back on the headboard and burst into tears. Soon I was told to leave, and I was glad to do so. As I walked down the hallway, I wondered if I had ever known this woman. She clearly never knew me. As I approached the elevator, I was met by 2 security guards. Sir, may I speak to you for a moment? I looked at them and said, No, you can't. I've already talked to the police and they cleared me. I'm not going to let the cries of a lying, cheating traitor give you the right to pretend you mean anything at all. You can call the police if you want, and I'll talk to them, but you'll just look like fools. It's up to you. But if you touch me, I'll sue you. I'd had enough by now. The guards looked around, not knowing what to do as I stepped into the elevator to leave. The police didn't bother me anymore. Gene had tried to get the police to charge me, but when the shooter was caught standing over the body and he confessed repeatedly on the way to the station, there was nothing else for them to do. The lawyer I hired for Helen Smith managed to put her in a psychiatric ward rather than a jail cell, but sometimes I wonder if there's much difference. I visit her from time to time and find that she is as sane as anyone I know. She once asked me, "Is there any chance you could sneak a hacksaw hidden in a box of chocolates?" That's when I realized she was as sane as you and me. I guess that lawyer wasn't so bad after all. The divorce went smoothly. Jean didn't want to see me anymore, but she wanted everything we had and everything I would ever have. She had to settle for half and no alimony. The judge was not impressed with her demands, and he told her, "You have a job, Mrs. Bradley. You can work." I'm thinking of tattooing those words on my arm. Looking back, what I remember most is an amazing lawyer who treated me like a child, guided me, scolded me, and kept me out of trouble. My wife's two wonderful in-laws, with whom I still feel a closeness, and a judge with a lot of common sense. As for the ex-wife, I hardly think of her at all. The end! Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.